Hey, Mark from Sound Matters here, talking all things vinyl. In today's video, we're unboxing the VMP release of Bright Eyes, I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning, which was a huge indie rock release from back in 2005, and I think the soundtrack to a lot of people's lives back in those days. So this is a lovely coloured vinyl release of this record, and we're going to unbox this today and share it together. Let's get straight into it. So here we are with Bright Eyes, I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning. It's a VMP Essentials release, packaged up in the usual way with the hype sticker on the front here that tells us immediately up front that the lacquers were cut by Cicely Balston at Alchemy Mastering Air Studios, and it's pressed onto 180 gram red marble vinyl, which should look really striking. The listening notes booklet, interesting with this release, features two of the band members. So there's, I think, telling the story from the band's perspective in terms of this album, what led to it, what influenced it. So if you're a huge fan of this album, this was a massive indie release back in the day, that'll be a nice read for you whilst you listen to the album. And of course, with all the VMP Essentials release, there's usually an art print included as well that you can frame, and this is by Butch Hogan, and on the reverse here, that is the art print of the band performing live that you can put in a record frame and put on the wall if you so wish. So that's it for the outside. Let's get cracking on unwrapping this and take a look at the inside. So the first thing I notice is just how cool the album cover is, because this is all obviously stitched, and then it's a photograph of this almost tapestry type thing, if that's the correct term. Probably not, but you get the kind of vibe that I'm talking about here. You can really see the layers and how this was put together, and it's clearly meant to represent New York, looking at the architecture and the city backdrop there. And that's interesting, of course, because Conor, the main songwriter here, he was writing these songs from the perspective of somebody who, in the recent years leading up to this album, had moved to New York from Nebraska and experienced all the kind of culture shock and new experiences that one would experience moving from somewhere like Omaha to a massive major city like New York. So the album itself is a gatefold, and the same vibe here just continues from that album cover at the front in terms of how this is put together. But there's some clever, interesting things here. Obviously, they've just laid leaves over the stitched fabric here, which the whole vibe of this really just plays into the stripped down, almost 70s folk aesthetic of this album. And there's almost an element of kind of Americana about some of these songs as well. And I think this whole vibe of the album cover just really suits the whole folk, indie, raw, honest aesthetic that is behind this album. You get a real sense of, from the production and just the feel and the vibe of the songs, you get a real sense of almost nature and something that's really natural and kind of at one with the earth with it. And I think this really represents it as an album cover, and which is what an album cover should do. It should reflect the music that you're about to hear. The whole experience should come together, and this is a great example of that. What I really noticed on the back, which is really cool and a nice touch, I think, is obviously this whole tapestry thing is continued, but it's clever in that it essentially almost continues this row of townhouses from the front cover to the back cover. And I really like album covers that do that where it's a continuation. It just adds to the whole vibe. You just don't get that with CDs, do you? You just don't notice these things in the same way when the artwork is shrunk down to, the size of a CD, or worse, if you're only consuming music through streaming, you basically miss out on the album art entirely. Inside, we've got our liner notes booklet, which of course I mentioned at the beginning, which features the band members themselves. It's an incomplete oral history of the album. So if you're a real fan of this album, you're really going to enjoy the personal stories that you'll hear directly from the band members through that. Enjoy that whilst you're listening to the album. But I'm keen also now to see what this beautiful red marble vinyl looks like. Let's take a look. And here it is, beautiful deep red marble vinyl, which I think really plays into the colours on the label, really complements it, looks really cool. So it's really a whole package, and that's what vinyl releases of these kinds should be. They should be premium, very well thought out, sort of almost luxurious products to really appreciate and enjoy some of your favourite albums. This will be be my first full album experience in terms of Bright Eyes. I'm aware of some of the singles, like It's the First Day of My Life, for example, which was played a lot on some films as well, you know, so it's quite a big track from back in the day. But I really would like to hear from you. Once I've dug into this album, I'm looking forward to getting this on my turntable, but once I've experienced this and really got into this, I'd love to hear from you in terms of what I should buy next from Bright Eyes. I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. But yeah, I can't wait to listen to this. Look at the beauty, just the beauty of coloured vinyl. And I know some people very much are very purist about vinyl in terms of going for black vinyl in terms of, you know, the audiophile aspect of it, but you can't deny the beauty of just some of these coloured releases. They just look so striking. So that concludes the unboxing today. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Which record should I check out next from Bright Eyes? I've heard about these digital experiments they've done before this called Digital Ash and Digital Urn. I'm going to check those out for sure. But what does this record mean to you? Let us know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you and any recommendations. If you'd like to share those with me, I'd absolutely welcome it. That's what this is all about as we go on a musical adventure together as a vinyl community. If you're new to this channel, please do consider subscribing. I can't wait to see you in that next one. Keep spinning, guys. See you then.